My husband broke up with me via text message. I'm leaving you and going to Madrid with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already emptied our joint account. Haha, I calmly replied. Good luck. Little did he know. By the time he realized what he had done, it was already too late. While attending to customers in my boutique, I received another message. I'm leaving you and going to Madrid with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already emptied our joint account. My hands didn't shake as I read the message, and my voice remained steady while I helped Mrs. Cecilia choose a scarf. The only sign that my husband of 12 years had just imploded our marriage via text message was a slight pressure around my eyes. I waited until Mrs. Cecilia left with her purchase wrapped in our signature silver paper before writing my response. Good luck. My name is Bianca, and at 38 years old, I have just received the cruelest breakup in history. But while Andre was probably boasting about his grand exit, imagining me devastated by his betrayal, I was calmly closing my boutique at the end of the day. The signs had been there for months. The late nights at work that never translated into extra income, the passwords he suddenly changed on his phone, the way he started going religiously to the gym, buying new clothes, and trying to relive his youth. 3 months ago, I found a dinner receipt for 2 at an expensive restaurant on a night when he had said he would be working late. That very night, I opened a separate bank account at another bank. A week later, when he suggested merging our accounts to make things easier, I gladly agreed while transferring my personal savings to the new account. The joint account he emptied contained exactly enough not to raise suspicions, about 2 months' worth of regular deposits. The rest was safe, along with detailed records of all the suspicious transactions he had made over the past year. My phone vibrated again. Don't bother begging. Fernanda and I are leaving tomorrow. I'll send someone to pick up my things later. Fernanda? The new receptionist at his office. I had met her at the company's Christmas party. I saw how she laughed a little too loudly at Andre's jokes, how she touched his arm when she thought no one was looking. She was young enough to be his daughter and naive enough to think she was special. I didn't reply to his message. Instead, I called my lawyer, with whom I had spoken 2 months ago when I found the hotel charges on our credit card statement. The time has come, I said calmly. He's made his move, she replied. The papers are ready. I'll file them first thing in the morning. Do you want him notified in Madrid? No rush. Let him think he's winning. Another message from Andre. It must be hard for you. After all, you're not getting any younger. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy. Little shop? The successful boutique I built from scratch? The same one that generated more income than his mediocre managerial job? The same boutique whose profits I had carefully kept separate from our joint finances? I smiled, thinking about the certified letters that would be waiting for him in Madrid. Let him enjoy his moment of glory. That night, I slept in our house. My house, because I inherited it from my grandmother and kept it in my name despite Andre's repeated suggestions to add him to the deed. Another instinct that had paid off. While organizing the documents my lawyer would need, I found our wedding album. Andre looked so different back then, before his midlife crisis turned him into a caricature of himself. Nowadays, he wore shirts that were too tight for his already sagging belly, tried to fit in with his younger coworkers, and used slang that sounded ridiculous coming from a 40-year-old man. My phone kept vibrating with his messages, each more condescending than the last. I've been planning this for months. Fernanda understands me in a way you never could. You'll be fine. Maybe you'll find someone your own age. I've already told my family. They agree that we've grown apart. It's nobody's fault. I took screenshots of each message, adding them to my file. Let him dig his own grave. My lawyer would be delighted with his casual confession of premeditation and his cheerful announcement that he had emptied our joint account. The last message caught my attention. I used the joint card to book our flights and hotel. Consider it my farewell gift, haha. I picked up the phone and called the credit card company. This is Mrs. Almeida. I'd like to report fraudulent charges and cancel a card immediately. Of course, ma'am. Can you identify the charges? 2 first-class tickets to Madrid booked today. Hotel expenses at the real hotel. I also need to remove my husband as an authorized user. Do you have any documentation of the case? Text messages from my husband admitting he used our joint card to book trips with his girlfriend after emptying our bank account. I can send them. The customer service representative's professional tone couldn't completely hide her satisfaction at canceling the charges. The next day, Andre and Fernanda would arrive at the airport only to find out their tickets had been invalidated and the hotel reservation canceled. My phone vibrated again. Don't worry about the house. I'll let you stay there until you find something smaller. This time, I burst out laughing. Did he really think he had any rights to my grandmother's house? Had his ego grown so much that he forgot whose name was on the deed? Another message followed, and I know the boutique means a lot to you. We can agree on a fair payment for my half of the store that I built, financed, and grew? While he complained about my long hours and called it my little hobby, I poured myself a glass of my finest wine, the one I had saved for a special occasion. Useless. The next day, Andre would learn a few truths about property and asset separation laws. But that night, I enjoyed the silence and started planning my next chapter. Morning brought a flood of increasingly frustrated messages. What did you do with the credit card? The airline won't accept our tickets. The hotel canceled our reservation. Answer me. I silenced my phone and headed to the boutique. Fridays were always our busiest days, and I had a new collection of luxury handbags to organize. Life goes on, even when your husband runs off with a receptionist young enough to be his daughter. Around noon, his mother called. Bianca, dear, Andre told us everything about how controlling you were, how you pushed him away. He says you're being vindictive now, sabotaging his travel plans. I put the call on speaker while arranging the display. Did he mention that he emptied our joint account and used our credit card to pay for flights and a hotel for him and his girlfriend? Silence. After a few seconds, she replied, well, he said you didn't leave him any choice, that you were cold and distant. Renata, I have his messages. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he brags about taking our money? Or perhaps the one where he mocks my age? Another pause. Well, yes, he did seem a little cruel. I told him that message was inappropriate. Thanks for calling, Renata. I've always liked you, but I think it's best to end this conversation. My lawyer advised me to keep track of everything. Andre still tried calling me a few times that afternoon. I ignored all his calls. I knew exactly what he wanted. To blame me, try to make me feel guilty, manipulate the situation in his favor, as he always did. But I no longer had the patience for his games. He could yell and throw a tantrum all he wanted. There was nothing he could do to change what was about to happen. When I closed the boutique that day, feeling the weight of the week, I walked to my favorite coffee shop. I ordered my usual coffee and sat in the corner, watching life pass by outside. I gave myself a few moments to take in the reality of the situation. My 12-year marriage had ended with a cold and selfish message, but I didn't feel sad. Just a growing sense of relief. I had spent too much time trying to save something he had already destroyed months ago, maybe even years. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again. This time, it was a short and direct message from Fernanda. You're pathetic. Just accept that you lost. I let out a low chuckle. Poor girl. She had no idea what kind of mess she had gotten herself into. But she would find out soon enough. I resisted the urge to reply. There was no need to stoop to her level. The real world would take care of that for me. I decided it was time to act. I called my lawyer, who answered almost immediately. Can we move forward with everything? I asked. Of course. The papers were filed this morning. He'll be served by the end of the day. We'll make sure he can't claim ignorance. Great. I also want to speed up the action regarding the funds withdrawn from the joint account. Is that possible? We're already on it. He won't have a peaceful day anytime soon. I smiled. I loved Camila's efficiency. She understood exactly the kind of silent, meticulous revenge I wanted. I returned home, my home, and allowed myself to relax. I turned on the radio, opened a bottle of wine, and sat on the couch. Each sip was a silent celebration of my freedom. I imagined Andre somewhere at the airport, trying to deal with the situation, unable to comprehend how everything spiraled out of control so quickly. The next morning, it didn't take long for things to start unraveling even further. My phone rang again, and this time it was his mother, Renata. Bianca, dear, please, we need to talk. I don't know if there's anything left to talk about, Renata. Andre made his choices. He's desperate. He says you ruined his life, that you're being vindictive. It doesn't have to be like this. I took a deep breath, staying calm. Renata, he cheated, he stole, and he even had the audacity to think he could kick me out of my own house. I just took steps to protect what's mine. She sighed on the other end of the line. I know, dear, but he's sorry. He says he made a mistake. He'll have plenty of time to think about that, I replied coldly. It wasn't long before I received an email from Andre, a mix of desperation and arrogance. He tried to argue that he had made a slip, that things with Fernanda weren't that serious, and that he might have acted hastily. You still have your business, I know you can manage, he wrote. We can find a way to sort this out without lawyers. We don't need to turn this into a war. I laughed out loud. After everything, he still thought he could manipulate me with sweet words and empty promises. I didn't even bother replying. Instead, I asked Camila to speed up the audit of Andre's finances. I knew he had always had a complicated relationship with money, the kind of man who lived to impress, spending more than he could afford. And now, with the joint account emptied, he would soon realize the true weight of his choices. 2 days later, I received another message from Fernanda. But this time, it wasn't an attack. You won. He's not worth it. I hope you're happy. It was already falling apart. As expected. That afternoon, when I arrived at the boutique, I found Andre waiting at the door. He looked like a wreck, messy hair, dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt. I looked at him and felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just a faint sense of disdain. Can we talk? He asked, with that soft voice that used to make me give in. There's nothing left to say, Andre. I made a mistake, Bianca. I was going through a phase. I thought I needed something new, something exciting. I crossed my arms, staring at him. And now you realize that real life isn't as exciting as you thought? He sighed, lowering his head. Fernanda, she's not who I thought she was. She just wants parties, money. I'm not young anymore, Bianca. That's your problem, Andre. He looked at me, searching for any sign of empathy. Can we fix this? I was thinking, maybe we could try again. I felt a wave of satisfaction. He was there, in front of me, asking for a second chance that would never happen. You emptied our account, cheated on me, and tried to kick me out of my house. There's no going back, Andre. I hope you enjoyed Madrid, because this is just the beginning of what's coming. He turned pale. Are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking? He opened his mouth to say something, but I had already lost interest. I stepped forward, unlocked the boutique door, and walked inside, leaving him standing on the sidewalk. I closed the door behind me, feeling lighter than ever. I was finally free, and he was finally alone. When I looked at Andre standing there in front of the boutique, a million thoughts raced through my mind. I could have simply sent him straight to hell at that moment, letting him sink alone in his own misery. But something inside me pulsed, a burning need to make him pay in a way he would never forget. So I took a deep breath and smiled, a slow and calculated smile. Maybe we can find a way to work this out, I said softly, crossing my arms. His eyes lit up, believing he still had a chance. Pathetic. I knew you still had feelings for me, Bianca, he said, stepping closer. Hold on. I raised my hand, cutting off his excitement. We can try, but under one condition. He frowned, suspicious. What condition? I want my freedom, Andre. If we're going to be together, I won't be faithful. I'll go out with whoever I want, and you can't complain. Either that, or you pack your things and disappear from my life right now. His expression went through a mix of shock, indignation, and desperation. I could see his pride struggling against his need. After all, he had nowhere to go, his finances were in ruins, and Fernanda had probably already found another fool to support her. He swallowed hard. Are you serious? More than ever. I crossed my arms and waited. Andre hesitated, opened his mouth to protest, but he knew he had no choice. Finally, he lowered his head and murmured, "All right, as long as you don't throw me out on the street." I smiled in satisfaction. Great. Welcome back, darling. And so, my revenge began. In the first few days, everything seemed calm. Andre tried to behave, acting as if nothing had happened. But I knew the storm was coming. On the first Friday after his return, I put my plan into action. I wore my best dress, the one he always hated because, according to him, it attracted too much attention. And that night, I brought home the first of many. I made sure to walk through the living room with my companion's hand on my waist, laughing loudly and letting Andre watch as I led him to the bedroom. I closed the door, but I made sure the sound of the creaking bed and my moans echoed through the hallways. I wanted every sigh to be a stab in his wounded pride. And it worked. The next morning, as I stepped out of the bedroom with a satisfied smile, I found Andre in the kitchen, pale, his eyes fixed on his coffee cup as if it were his last shred of dignity. My guest passed by him, gave him a friendly pat on the shoulder, and said, "Thanks for the hospitality, man." Andre stiffened, but said nothing. I stared at him, waiting for a reaction, but he just swallowed hard and left the kitchen in silence. This became a routine. Every week, a new man, new laughter echoing through the house, new sensual whispers that Andre was forced to hear. Some nights, I made sure to exaggerate the moans, dragging out words that made it clear what was happening inside. I could hear him fumbling around in the living room, trying to hide his discomfort. But nothing could ease the humiliation. Over time, the men who came to my house began to spread the story. Andre became a laughingstock in bars and offices across town. He was known as the Good Samaritan, the one who generously shared his wife with others. Wherever he went, whispers followed, muffled laughter from people who had already heard the sordid details. Things reached a breaking point when one of the guys I brought home decided to provoke Andre directly. "Dude, I've never seen someone so chill. You're a true modern man," he laughed while Andre clenched his fists, trying not to explode. But everything has a limit, and his came sooner than I expected. One night, after an especially noisy session, Andre finally lost control. He waited for me in the kitchen, his eyes red with rage, his face sweaty. "Bianca, enough. This is humiliating. I can't take it anymore." I looked at him with complete calm. "But this was the deal, wasn't it? You agreed to it." "You're destroying me," he shouted, slamming the table. "Then leave," I replied coldly. "You always had that option." He stood there, frozen. I knew he was about to beg, but there was only one way out for him. I got up and approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to say anything, Andre. It's better for both of us if you leave. No money, no house, no dignity. What a tragedy, huh?" He stared at me with eyes full of hatred and shame, but he knew I had won. He quickly packed his things and left that same night, with only a suitcase and his ruined reputation. In the following days, I heard stories about him sleeping at distant friends' houses, each one laughing at him behind his back. "The Good Samaritan," they said, raising their glasses in his honor. And me? I continued with my life. My boutique thrived, my house was finally a space of freedom, and I had never felt so satisfied. Because, in the end, revenge is a dish best served hot, and with moans loud enough for everyone to hear.